Hey guys, it's Rush G. Hope we're doing well. Welcome back to the channel. This video today, I'm doing a final thoughts, a wrap up of the Hori Fighting Commander OCTA controller. This one in front of you, and I'm going to do a comparison, a direct comparison with the Hori Fighting Commander. Let's get straight to the point. Pros and cons. So the plus points of this pad are it's well built. It's better built than the previous model. It does feel a bit more quality. It's still plastic, as I mentioned. It's very light. It's not a premium pad, but it does feel better built. The buttons feel great. The micro switches. It's a really nice pad from that perspective. I do like the shoulder buttons. The feedback's really good on them. It's not a bad thing by any means. And the functionality, yeah, you can customize the pad via the companion app. You've got the audio jack, which you haven't got on the previous pad. Yeah, it's nice. Those are generally the good points. Unfortunately, the bad points do outweigh the good points. I mean, as nice as those things are, it's a fight pad, and those aren't really a big deal. I think the micro switches are probably the main thing, but the bad points, which you need to be aware of, are the inclusion of the analog stick. I think this is pointless. There's no point in that being on the pad. Predominantly people will be using the D-pad over the analog stick. Even if you play tip of thumb, look, you can see there, look, if I'm using tip of thumb, I'm touching. You can see I'm not even exaggerating. I can feel myself rubbing against, take that as you wish, rubbing against the analog stick. So you will tap that quite a bit, which is really annoying. Even the position of the D-pad I think should be more centralized between these two input devices. It should be there, not here, not there. That would be a better position for it. I've got used to it being there, which isn't a problem, but I just don't think it's a natural fit for me. As I mentioned with the shoulder buttons, it's probably a bit, I think it's overkill. I think they're too big. I do like the idea of a gap between these two. So if I show you the Hori Fighting Commander, if you look at the buttons there's actually a gap here, and if you look at the surface area here, it's quite big, isn't it? That's quite a good idea, because as I said, you can rest your finger in between the buttons, because you're going to be going that way or that way, aren't you? Well, more to this side. You'll be going that way or that way. So your finger wants like a neutral place to rest, and on this pad, you don't have that. I mean, that's the deal breaker for me. And I think, yeah, a bit more surface area would have been better, I think. One other thing I should mention is this pad's quite, the shape of it, I don't like the grips. I think they kind of just force you into a position that you may not want to hold the pad in. And also, I think if you look at the two pads, it thins out, doesn't it? I don't know if you can see that. It's a bit tricky to get the light in to pick it up, but this pad thins out quite a bit. So turn it there, and I turn it this way. Thins out quite a bit here. This one's quite chunky throughout. It does thin out, but it's not. Maybe, yeah, it is a little thinner on the newer controller. This is a bit thicker, and I think I like that chunkiness of this pad. It's plasticky, it's lightweight, it is a bit more rough around the edges, but the feel of this pad is just feels really nice in the hands. And I keep saying it, every pad that comes out, I have high hopes for other controllers, but this pad really is well built. It's in terms of the way it feels, from an ergonomic perspective, the position of the buttons, the layout, it's just really good, and nothing's topped it. So yeah, that's the pros and cons of this controller. The other con, and this is probably the biggest con for me, which is massive actually, I'll show you in game in a second. When you're trying to do inputs facing the left, so particularly where you're trying to cancel into super, so super inputs generally on 2D fighters are quarter circle forward. This pad, if for some reason, will not let me do quarter circle forward into my super move. You have to really press hard and really exaggerate the inputs to the point it's just too much effort, and I don't have that on the previous pad. So I'm going to show you that shortly, but let's just have a quick look at the Hori Fighting Commander. So we've covered this pad a lot on the channel, but pros and cons again, it's well built enough. The shape of it's perfect. So every button on this pad is built and is positioned in a way where it's great. You know, the face buttons are bigger than the Hori OCTA pad, and they're well positioned. Have good feedback. They don't have micro switches, but they have good feedback. The shoulder buttons, good feedback, good positioning. They're not overly sized. I really like the fact that you've got all this space on top. Controller, like I said, it's chunky. It fits really nice in the hands. That's such an important thing, man. And the position of the D-pad is just fantastic. The only downside to this pad is the D-pad. You have the D-pad wobble, which I've mentioned many times on the channel, and the fact that you don't have the diagonals. It's not a major issue, but you do sometimes feel like you can't press the diagonals. So that is a bit of an annoyance. And the D-pads do, after a fair amount of use, sort of play up on you, and you have to replace the pads. So the only really downside to this pad is you have to replace it quite regularly. That is the only con of this pad. Otherwise, it is, and it looks like it's going to remain the best 6-button fight pad at the moment of I've ever used. I've got a lot of 6-button fight pads, all kinds of different controllers, and I've got old Horis, I've got third-party sort of cheap brands. I've got the Sega Saturn 6-button pad. I had the 8-bit Do, I had the Power Ray, I had the Rayon, I had Mad Catz pads, and none of them perform anywhere near this pad, bottom line. So as much as I have a love-hate relationship with this pad, mainly the D-pad, it's the best controller out there. So I will be ordering another one of these soon to continue using on stream. And in the background, I will be using that hitbox. But let me show you these inputs now on the Hori OCTA, just to prove a point, and just to show you that it's not me, it's this pad. And yeah, we'll wrap up the video after that. Okay, so as mentioned, I'm going to show you why. I don't actually know the reason why, but when trying to do Dragon Punch into Super, facing the right hand side, it just seems nigh on impossible to get the input. Now I'm a ball of thumb user, not a tip of thumb. It's even harder to do this with tip of thumb. I just don't know. I think the way this D-pad is sitting high, trying to use the tip of your thumb, it's not a natural position that the tip of your thumb. You almost have to bring your grip down a bit for it to be more natural. It's really weird, but it doesn't feel. I don't know. It just feels weird, strange. I feel like if your thumb was more that way, you know what I mean? As I mentioned, if this was more centralized, it was more there, this would be a more natural position for your thumb to sit. But here, up here, is just really odd. It doesn't feel natural to me. So yeah, there's combo I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a stand heavy punch into light punch DP, and I'm going to cancel the light punch DP into CA. So the input after the light punch dragon punch will be that. So I'm going to overlap the dragon punch input with the super input to cause the cancel. Yeah, I can't get this consistently. That was good first time. Now that felt like it was going to work then, but it never came out. I just can't get it to work. There is a workaround for this, but it's not my preferred method. And what you do for this is you do a stand heavy punch, quarter circle forward, punch kick. What happened there is, you can see there, if I do 2 quarter circle forwards, I get a dragon punch, so I can cancel. I'll show you the input again. Try and get Ken close to me. What I'm doing there is a quarter circle forward punch kick causes the dragon punch to come out, and then I instantly press kick to get the super to come out. So I'm doing the super input, but if you do the super input with a punch, you do get a dragon punch. So I'm doing the super input into punch then kick to cause the dragon punch to cancel into the super. So I can use this method, and it does work. That's consistent. And it probably is an easier way to do that, but I shouldn't have to rely on such shortcuts to get the input. The input should just work. I can't for the life of me figure out why it just doesn't work. But if I try to do the same combo on the left now without using that shortcut every time, it's much more comfortable doing this on this side of the screen, on the right hand side. Look at that, it's mad. Actually crazy. And this is the reason, and it's not just this. So in training mode it's different because I'm just focused on the inputs. But when you're playing in a match, I notice this happens with a number of inputs. A number of inputs just feel awkward to do on this pad, and I really think it's to do with the position of the D-pad. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but just playing with this pad, I did 3 streams. I did a lot of exercises off stream, just execution work, and I just couldn't get comfortable. It just didn't click with me at all. I'd actually say I had a better time on the Power A. There were some inputs on the Power A that didn't work, but I feel that's because the D-pad was quite recessed into the controller. It felt like you had to like almost put your thumb within the recess. It didn't protrude very much. The Rayon was oversensitive. The Mad Cats, they were just bad. I didn't like the Mad Cats at all. It just fit like the D-pad. This D-pad feels like, I love the shape of it. It doesn't move. I think it's a really nice D-pad, but the position of it, and just, I don't know, maybe it's more prone to mistakes or sloppy inputs. But again, comparing it to the old version, the position of my thumb just feels so much more natural. It just feels more relaxed. I'm not happy. It almost feels quite, on this pad, it almost feels quite tense, the position of it. It's quite strained. Sorry, strained is the word I wanted to use. It feels very strained because of the location of the D-pad. I'm having to like pull back, whereas this is a lot more relaxed, a lot more comfortable, and it just flows a lot better. So it's not, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not the fact that the D-pad is bad on the OCTA. Maybe it's the fact that it's more uncomfortable compared to this one. That's why I'd love to. I don't know how. It wouldn't be possible to use this D-pad somehow on this controller. Would be a really interesting thing, because that is the only downside of this pad, really. Yeah, it feels great, but sometimes your inputs, you feel like you miss inputs just because of the movement in the D-pad, because it wears quite a bit. You sort of lose faith in it out over time. So yeah, that's literally my thoughts on the pad. We've done a lot of coverage on this on the OCTA. I've really tried to make it work. I really want it to work. I really had high hopes for this pad, and it has delivered somewhat, but it's not. There's just some small things that Hori have done which have really hindered the overall package, unfortunately. And the D-pad's always going to be the most important thing on these 6-button fight pads, and the position, the location, just the ergonomics of this pad really do let it down, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my final thought on this pad. It's very unfortunate, but I'm glad I've given it a go. You never know, maybe Hori will bring out further models of this. You never know. But thanks for watching, guys, much appreciated. And yeah, it's going to be back to the old pad, unfortunately, for now. So cool. Any questions, any queries, as always, give me a shout, and I'll catch you in a future video. Take care.